Hey guys. Casey began ABA therapy about 4 years old, and he was not quite at school age. So we had about a year or 6 months of ABA services. It took forever for us to even get services. I'm not gonna lie. I suspected that Casey had autism spectrum disorder when he was maybe about, I want to say 9 to 10 months. And I knew something was different about him when he was born, because all my children, they were able to sleep independently. They didn't cry a lot, and they weren't so clingy as babies. And I know babies aren't clingy, but I don't know another term to use. So my son had what they said was oh my goodness, can't even think, colic. That's the word, colic. They said that he had colic, but for me, I never had a child who had colic. So for me, I was like, okay, something's off with this. And that's actually something they should look into, children who had colic, and if there are any relation to children who are on the spectrum. So I found it hard to put Casey in his crib or to have him sleep alone. He was not having it as a baby at all. The moment I set him down, that boy will holler his little head off. So we found that when he was that little, and he wasn't even a month old yet, y'all. So we had to use something called gripe water. We used that. That kind of helped a little bit. But it was just, he was different than any other child that I had. Even my pregnancy was different. So when I was pregnant with him, I was so concerned because I could not feel him move. You know, when you're pregnant, you can always feel your baby move. You can feel them shift. And I remember one night I was just laying there and I was just like telling my husband, I haven't felt the baby move all day. So he says, okay, get dressed. Let's go to the emergency room. We got dressed, went to the emergency room, and they did an ultrasound. And they had told me that everything looked good with him, but they had told me the way my placenta was sitting, it was more so at the top of my belly, and KC was like beneath it. So the placenta usually sits in a different position from what they were explaining. So when he kicks and he moves, I wasn't feeling it. So I really didn't get to feel KC move until I was about 8 months. And that's, yes, y'all. So already I had like this disconnect because I couldn't have like that maternal connection with my unborn fetus because I didn't get to feel those movements until like my last month. Fast forward. So Casey did start saying things like mama, and about 6 months he did say that. I heard him say it, and then out of nowhere, guys, he just stopped talking. He just stopped saying mama, dada. And it wasn't often that he said it, but he did say it. And I was concerned because I said, all my children, I have like these videos of them just babbling, that is the natural occurrence of infants. They babble a lot, especially when you're talking to them. You talk to babies, they're going to talk back to you because they're going to emulate you. They watch your mouth movement and they'll try to do what you're doing. And so I did get that from Casey, but not a lot. Another thing that I thought was extraordinary about him was anything that he set his mind to that he's seen his older siblings do. So Casey is the baby out of 7 kids. So he has 6 other siblings. And he modeled right after them. Trust me, he was always on the go after them. So I just knew that he was extraordinary. But what concerned me was when he was about, well, I can't say it's really concerning. So most children go through phases of learning to walk. They'll crawl first. So Casey was at that stage of crawling. He was crawling and he didn't crawl long. He would crawl after his brothers all the time, and they would run out through the house because he'd watch his brothers play, and they'll be chasing each other and roughhousing. And then one day I'm sitting there and I'm just watching him play, and I watched him push himself up, his little bitty self up. And mind you guys, this was 8 months. 8 months. He was near 9 months, but he was still 8 months. 8 months, he pulled himself up and just started walking. Mind you, I hadn't even taught him how to walk yet because we weren't at that stage of ready to walk. We were still in the crawling era. At least that's how the other children did it. And he just pulled himself up and started taking his little steps. And then once he knew he had it, it was just like, it was the confidence in Casey. He had a confidence like no other. And I just looked at him and I said, oh my goodness, you're definitely unique. But where the concerns came in at was when he would get frustrated, he would start self-harming. He would start hitting his head against the wall, and then I started seeing things such as him poking holes and eating the wall. And I'm like, that's definitely not normal. So I went into my mommy mode. I made an appointment with his pediatrician, and mind you, he's not his one. So they're like, well, I suspect that you're right. That's what they told me. But he told me, he said it would be unethical for me to give him this diagnosis at age 1. And I believe they told me that it was about age 2 to 3 that they formally did the diagnosis for autism. So he told me, he says, I'm going to go ahead and chart this. And we're going to be on the lookout. And these are the things that I want you to do. Told me, I want you to breathe. I want you to prepare yourself. I want you to do as much homework as you can. And that's all I needed for him to tell me, for me to get motivated to get into my mommy mode. Because let me tell you, these little fingers was on the keyboard. I was researching everything. I was looking up everything. I was trying to figure out the reasons, the causes. I was trying to figure out if it was my fault. I blame myself because I'm like, oh my goodness, I couldn't feel myself. Like, I couldn't feel him during my pregnancy. Is this my fault? My diabetes, I had gestational diabetes. I really had a difficult pregnancy. So I was wondering, like, is this my fault? I beat myself down. My husband beat himself down. We cried. We was trying to figure out why. We just was afraid. We didn't know what it looked like. Every feeling that a person can feel of grief, we felt in that moment. Because in that moment, it felt like it was a death sentence. I know it's not, but in that moment, it did feel that way. And the reason why I felt that way was because I knew that I had no family support, and we're in a city where we have no family. And I was thinking about the long term. I was thinking about, oh my goodness, I don't want to be the parent that put this burden on their older children to be like, hey, I'm gonna need you to take care of your brother if the worst of the worst happens to me. Because not only is the diagnosis of autism painful for parents, but it's painful for the siblings, because the siblings have to learn to acclimate themselves in their sibling's life, especially if they're an older sibling. But imagine being a younger sibling and you want the role of being the little sibling, but you have to play the big sister, the big brother role to your autistic family member or your sibling. That's a hard journey, and that's a hard responsibility for any child. So we wanted to look at our children, our other children's mental stability. But once we did get the formal diagnosis, let me tell you, it is amazing to have children who love their siblings the way my children do. My older children were one of the biggest reasons why Carter is progressing, and he's learning, and he has speech now, and he's so goal oriented. He watches his older siblings, but not only did his older siblings conform their life, which I don't know if I want to say conform, but they altered their life a little bit because they love their brother so much. And I always tell them, listen, this is not on you. This is on me. This is my responsibility. And my two oldest daughters, like, girl, please, this is my baby. This is my baby. And my children, all my children, they got into research mode. When I'm telling you, my oldest daughter, my 25-year-old, she found, I forget the name of the song, but it was this video on Netflix, and she found that video, and he fell in love with it. And let me tell you, my 21-year-old, she also was the greatest help, and their brothers too. So they were finding things like Elmo songs. They was on there, hey mom, this song is gonna be great. And I'm telling you, my kids compiled a playlist for him on YouTube, and that would get him settled. And so we had purchased him this little train track. It's an electric train track, and it goes in a circle. It's pretty big. It's like a Tiny Tots electric train. It was the dopest thing ever. And we would put him on that in the living room. He had the track that would go all the way around. It was pretty big. And we had our TV plastered on the wall. He would watch all his favorite things. But the one thing that his playlist was tailored to was the Mother Goose Club. That's what helped him to learn. That's what helped him to have some speech. And we had him model us. So when we would speak to him, we would speak slowly to him so that he was able to read our lips. And then we'd say, okay, now try this. Okay, guys. So these are the math flashcards that I got for him. These just addition. And it has the answer on there, but I just want to first get him acclimated with the setup and to understand what addition is and what math is. And we're just doing basic math. So this ones we won't be doing yet until he understands just two numbers. Because three numbers is going to complicate it. I want him to get the gist of it. And then also we're working with spelling. So he knows that this is a B. So he has to spell this. The answer is also on the back too. So you see how it says cat and the cat's on the back. And then you know what you do? You have them write it out on here with an erasable marker. And so now that I tested this theory today because I wanted to start spelling with him today. And I learned that he doesn't quite understand what spelling is. So what I did was I just wrote down on here, and let me show you guys. I just wrote down on here and told him what spelling is and gave him an example. And I just wrote B. I wrote B on here. This is wet because I cleaned it off. So you see how I just wrote B on there? And then I'll have him spell it with me. So B-E-E, B. Now Carter can read, and Carter can read very well, but I'm not sure if he understands the concept of spelling or he just I don't think he understands the concept of spelling. So that's what we're working on. And then I have his schedule getting started, and Carter is KC. And this is my weekly scheduler. So you can get this at Family Dollars, very cheap. That's where I got it from. And it got a whole list of schedules. So I'll be back to show you guys. Okay, so I'm back. So this is the schedule. And as you guys can see right here, I have his schedule written down. So math is at 9:30. He's going to do addition. And then spelling is at 10. And then he has a break at 10:30. And then he has, let's see, a break at 10:30. And then Carter's Choice is at 11 a.m. And then ABA starts at 11:30. So he's not homeschooled the whole day, so it's a half a day because he is in speech therapy. He's in OT, which is occupational therapy, and he's also in ABA. So me as a mother, I utilize all of these tools because I want to make sure that Casey is as successful in life as he can be, because I won't be here forever. And I will do a separate video on the benefits of speech, OT, and ABA services.